Hey guys, this is Atriva.
Hey guys, this is Subhayan. Namaskar, Adab, Sat Sri Akal. Welcome to a brand new episode of What's Your Take.
This video is based on how India has performed her battle against this coronavirus. We will consider all the decisions taken by the government, their aftermaths and outcomes, awareness of the people, and the crisis we are facing right now.
Let's go on a flashback to March 2020.
आज रात 12 बजे से संपूर्ण देश में संपूर्ण लॉकडाउन होने जा रहा है।
A sudden nationwide lockdown was imposed on us. Though imposing a nationwide lockdown on a country of 130 million was appreciated greatly all around the globe, but it had its own drawbacks. A large population from the countryside of India work as laborers in the metropolitan and developing cities of India. Imposing a sudden lockdown had put them in a great distress, where they had to move cross country back to their home with no proper transport and no proper source of food.
This whimsical decision faced criticism from all corners of the world, and the saddening part is that the government paid least attention towards it. In fact, when some rulers from the opposition party were trying to help the poor, the rulers from the ruling party were mocking them on various social media platforms. The government hardly managed to provide any kind of transportation like trains or buses to the migrant laborers, but provided airline facilities to the NRIs. Religious festivals were also celebrated with ruckus.
When the Western countries were warning us strictly about the upcoming second wave, the Indian government kept us giving fake hopes that everything was under control and the only problem in the country were the protesting farmers. A PM Care Fund was created, which was supposed to be a public fund, but no person in the country had access to it except for the PM, the Home Minister, the Finance Minister, and the Defense Minister. The Indian government made various efforts to make people believe that it was a public fund and was made for public interest, but the public denied to believe it.
In February 2021, our Union Health Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan, stated that India was well prepared for the second wave.
आज 2021 में हम 2020 के मुकाबले वायरस का सामना करने के लिए और ज़्यादा अनुभव है हम लोगों के पास और ज़्यादा हम लोग मेंटली और फिजिकली और हर तरीके से प्रिपेयर्ड हैं.
But as soon as the second wave hit the country, we faced lack of oxygen, hospital beds, and vaccines. This had clearly unmarks the ill-managed health system of our Indian government. In this second wave, a large number of people died in many well-developed cities in India, like mainly we can say Mumbai and Delhi. The CM of the states a few weeks ago had requested the PMO for immediate oxygen supply, but the PMO had their own excuses.
The central and the state government failed miserably to make the people aware about the second wave. Even when the cases were rising, assembly elections were conducted in Bengal, Tripura, Assam, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Pondicherry. The worst case being in Bengal, where large meetings and public rallies were held almost every day, even when the cases in the state were on a spike. There was a gap of at least 6 months between the first and second wave, but a minimum attention was given to the healthcare system. Hardly any new oxygen plants were built in the metropolitan cities. The only good thing that happened was that there were no proper victory rallies in the states.
When the country was mourning over dead bodies, BCCI decided to conduct this year's IPL. This decision was heavily criticized by the country, but BCCI President Saurav Ganguly was rigid on his decision mentioning that the board would incur a heavy loss. Many foreign players decided to abandon this year's IPL and go back to their own respective countries. And if we think deeply, if IPL would have not taken place this year, we would have saved a lot amount of RT-PCR kits and PPE kits, and it would have actually been useful in the places where the people actually needed them. And as for now, IPL is scheduled to be taken place in the UAE from September onwards.
In the meantime, dead bodies of COVID patients were found floating in the rivers of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. The carcasses of COVID patients were found buried in the banks of river Yamuna in Unna, Uttar Pradesh. The Indian government was criticized heavily by foreign media. The minimum intervention of the Indian government in donating vaccine to its citizens was also questioned. Instead, the government was donating vaccine to the neighboring countries. Vaccines against rabies were reportedly injected in patients, convincing them that it was same as Covishield or Covaxin.
Mentionable helps came from people like our very own Masiha, Sonu Sood, Bengali actor Dev, a youth left-wing organization called the Red Volunteers, many regional actors from every state, and RSS. Business tycoon like Ratan Tata, Azim Premji, and Mukesh Ambani, and many other people from different walks of life have also pledged their help in different ways possible. Indian Air Force and Indian Railways have served their highest potential in transporting oxygen throughout the country. The people of India unified and are helping each other in such distress has become quite a rare scene in the past few years.
But the country still faces a heavy crisis, as there are many cases of severe black marketing of oxygen cylinders, medicines and vaccines. But the politicians are still not tired of playing their divisive politics. Recently, BJP youth MP Tejasvi Surya accused 16 Muslim men of hospital bed scams with no proper proof. This act was criticized heavily by the media, and the minister had to apologize for his deed. Even during such a pandemic, the government is using the Central Vista Fund to make new buildings for their ministers. Instead, they can utilize it for the vaccines.
When you are supposed to vaccinate a population of 130 million, you can't just give away vaccines to the neighboring countries to maintain your image on an international scale. Especially when a noticeable percentage of your population is not being vaccinated. The central and the state governments must have set prices for the medicines, hospital beds available, vaccines and oxygen cylinders. There are cases where the hospitals are charging 40,000 and above for hospital beds only, and for medicines like Remdesivir are charged up to 1 lakh. But there has been a good news. Few days back, the central government and all the state governments in a meeting decided to bring the GST of the 12% of the corona items, or like the items which is related to this coronavirus, has come down to 5%, and the GST which was earlier 5% came down to 0. Means will come down to 0.
Immediately after the results of the Bengal elections, there were many incidents of post-poll violence. I entirely blame the chairperson of the ruling party for not being able to control her men. But BJP is using this situation for their advantage. They are circulating fake and doctored image and videos and trying to impose president rule on the state. Imposing a president rule on a state during such a pandemic will not only affect the income of the people but will also worsen the situation. When the pandemic must be the topmost priority of the state, all the politicians are concerned about coming into power. So that's it for today. Hope to meet you in the next video.
If you have found this video helpful, share this video with your family and friends. Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan.
Jai Hind, জয় বাংলা।